Two, what's the best translation for sozo? Is it we are eating, you are reading, I am saving, or let's take a quiz? C. I'm saving. Sozo? Yes, that is correct. The correct answer is C. Okay, which Greek word would you use to say we are writing? Would you say sozusi, graphomen, lego, or arche? Graphomen. The amen ending tells you it's a we. It's doing it, right? And graph tells you it has to do with writing. So graphomen, we are writing. B. Select from the list, this is question 4, select from the list below to complete this sentence, Jimmy blank the beautiful music. Now, here's another one where if you want to be argumentative on it. He baptized the music, you know. All right, tell me how that happened and visualize this for me. But the ending isn't right anymore.
The ending isn't right.
You only have one with the correct ending. So is it baptizes, akue, akuamen, or don't know? Just want to see if you're reading Greek letters. Which one is it? Akue. Why can't it be C, akuamen?
Because it's the wrong ending.
Yes, it's we. Amen means we. So that would be Jimmy, we are here. It just doesn't make any sense. Jimmy, akue. All right. Now Lego, number 5 in matching, should be have a little arrow drawn to what? I say. And a gnosko should have a little arrow drawn to I read. Is that literally?
Well, we'll make it that from now on.
Is it a dotted arrow?
Now that we know how your brain processes things, we will be able to.
I'm riveting. Okay, kue should be where?
I hear.
I hear. Okay, baptizo.
I submerge.
Sozo.
I see.
Okay. So I gave you a little opportunity for extra credit. The ending should look something like this. Hey. Amen. Ete. Use. And if you have a new there, that's fine. So. Have a look at your paper. If you have something that looks like that. He's here. All right, the big noun lesson. I already read you the subtitle. I hope the noun lesson helps you out. You do have to memorize a few more things.
Sorry.
With the noun lesson, that's fine. You do have to memorize a few things. As you would expect, you know, you kind of feel like you're wasting a week if you come in and you hear a lecture and there's nothing to actually remember. Like, oh, you don't really have anything to remember this week, though. It's like, well, where did I go? You know? That's not learning, necessarily. I mean, for some things it is, but you're going to be, I should be recording. You're going to learn some endings today and kind of what they mean, and then this week, you kind of have to go around and go, you know, us, oo, o, on, you know, and you got 8 things to run. You got a list of 8 endings to run down. Hopefully, last week, you walked around and went, oh, ace, a, amen, eta, usi. Because if not, you've got to walk around this week, 6 plus 7, that's 13. That's just not lucky. You got to go around and you got to repeat these endings to yourself. So you need to catch up on them or else you get behind with them. It's like catching some kind of vermin, you know. If you don't keep up with them, you're never going to get caught up. So 6 mice run out the door last week. Catch those 6 mice, put them somewhere safe. This week, 8 mice are running out the door. Catch those 8 mice, put them somewhere safe. Each week, you got something to keep up with. All right? So this week, I'm going to teach you kind of like what they mean, how to use them, sort of, and then you got to go out and kind of work on memorizing these. So that's how that works. Now meet anthropos. What do you think anthropos means? Man, yes. Anthropology, heard of that? That's the study of mankind. And as with the word mankind, anthropos literally means man. Now I don't even know what that word means anymore. But often means person of either gender. So, just like mankind includes people of all genders.
There's a ghost in the coffee pot.
Okay. Jay, could you go do an exorcism? Could you go do an exorcism in there?
At
So
least you know it's working now.
it's working. Yeah, that's true. So you'll come across. Let's try to pretend like none of this is happening. Let's just pretend like that ridiculous noise is not happening in there. You'll be reading through the New Testament, and you'll see anthropos, and it'll mean people sometimes. Like that's how it'll be translated.
Does it need to be closed? Does the valve need to be closed?
I don't know. You want to check on it?
Just go.
Just go, I'm gonna go with you.
Maybe.
What it happens usually.
It's still yelling.
I used to have prayer meetings,
You know,
prayer time, that would be going.
at FBC we only have the best.
Maybe I'm bringing my purpose.
That's right.
They don't make that noise.
That should be fine.
It's all right. It's your fault.
It's just
Scary.
it's just one thing. Yeah. Okay. So you get the point. Anthropos. This slide this is a missed opportunity. You're gonna carry top.
Is that a singular?
That's singular. Anthropos is a man.
Okay, so it wouldn't mean people?
No.
Okay, just.
Mhm. Anthropoi would be men or people, and we'll get that ending in just a minute. The plural of anthropos is anthropoi. So now, just in case you need to fresh up on this, and this is in your handout, of course, it's person, place, thing, or idea. And so nouns are things that exist. They have weight and mass, or they're an idea that is in your head. That if it were real, it would have weight and mass. And verbs happen to nouns, or nouns do verbs. So that's kind of, you need that refresher. So anthropos is a noun, whether he wants to be or not. Now in English we tell, you know this, in English we tell what a noun is doing by seeing where it is in the sentence. You know that a noun is up to something when it's first thing in the sentence, right? The word Joey shows up first thing in the sentence. Well, you know Joey's up to something. Joey is doing something, or he is something. So the fact that Joey shows up front, first thing in the sentence, he's probably the subject of the sentence. He's really important to the sentence, and he's going to do the verb. No, not always, but he's up there in the front of the sentence. So he's probably, throwing the ball, or he is a policeman, or whatever. He is or is doing something. So the man threw the ball. The man is the subject in this sense. The man shows up first. It's easy. The man is throwing the ball, and the object is the ball. Now, this is something where you've been wrestling with this, the word order in Greek, because in English, moving the words around brings out a different meaning. So just switching around two words can make a normal sentence into a weird one, right? The ball threw the boy. What did we do? All we did was just switch a couple of words around, and the words are the same, right? Aren't these words the same as the boy threw the ball threw the boy? What's the difference? I don't see a difference. The words are all there. Who cares? Don't they mean the same thing? The ball threw the boy and the boy threw the ball? Not in English, no, because we have decided in our infinite wisdom that we should put subjects up front and objects in the back. And if you switch them around, then their function in the sentence changes. So that's a decision we made somewhere. I don't know what meeting that was at, but somewhere they decided that. Okay? So the ball becomes the subject and the boy becomes the object. And so we have these little parts of speech that, maybe you learned and forgot, maybe you never learned. But you have your subject, your verb, your object, and you have something called an indirect object. Does anybody remember that? Well, in Greek it will be, so. Yes. So we have different names. We're not going to call them by these names. All right? We're going to call these nominative case. I'm not going to call it that all the time. But sometimes, if I say nominative case, I want you to kind of know where you heard that, so you can go back and find it and look it up. Accusative case and dative case. All right? Accusative sounds like a mouthful. These are Latin terms. And they just happen to be the terms by which. What's that?
No, it just sounds funny Latin for studying Greek.
Yes. Yeah, Latin grammarians kind of invented the study of grammar for our purposes. They really messed up grammar because English isn't grammar at all, isn't like Latin grammar. And they decided to study English along the lines of Latin. If you ever were confused by English grammar, I think that's why. We will. You already had a bad teacher. I don't know. We will use endings to tell whether something is a subject or an object. So here, let's just kind of get you started. The os ending shows who is doing the verb. Os ending here is your subject. And the on ending, that's not of, right? That's a Greek new in the red. The on ending shows who the verb is happening to. So I don't know if you noticed this in our reading, we had logos and then sometimes it turned into logon. Or theos sometimes turned into theon. I don't know if you noticed that like a John. We'll look at that later. So the balos hit the charon. Does that make sense? You see what I'm doing? I'm putting Greek noun endings on English nouns, just for the sake of illustrating. We did this with verbs too. The balos hit the charon. I'm going to let that soak in for a second. All right, so is that soaked in? Soaking in, soaked in? Okay. The manos threw the ball on. So the man is the one who's acting, and the ball is the thing that is being acted on. Now, the ball on threw the manos. What does that mean? Same thing. That's right. Word order is becoming irrelevant. The endings are what matter. So you know that this is the person doing the action because it ends in us, and this is the thing being acted on because it ends in on. So now word order is no longer important. You have endings to tell you. So the ball on through the manos means the man threw the ball. He's the guy in charge of the verb. Whoever holds os is in charge of the verb, all right? Now, let's get a couple more endings. We're going to have, I told you 8. So I'm going to give you, those are 2. I'm going to give you 2 more, and these are just your singulars, and then I'll just kind of lay the whole thing out in front of you so you can see it. So this is see that omega there? But I have a little line under it. So let me just draw this on the board real big so you can see. This is the omega, and it goes O, and there's this little line under it like this. And it doesn't make any noise at all, but it's just there. Now, let me give you a little history lesson about this. Will it confuse you if I give you a history lesson about how this got here? No? Okay. You're already confused. That's natural. It used to be out here a long time ago, as in iota. And over time, it kind of like hundreds of years, it worked its way down under here and became what they call an iota subscript. And it doesn't make any noise, it's just there. But it's important because it tells you that this is the thing that's getting the ball. This is the person who's catching the ball, if you will. The ball is being thrown. There's somebody who's throwing the ball. Somebody's got to catch it. So the ball is, the man threw the ball to the boyo. He's got this ending. He's the person who's getting the ball. Okay? So the O ending makes us translate the noun with a to or a by in front of it. When you see that ending on a noun, just put to on the front of it or by, and you should be safe. Okay? For now. And so it shows who or what is getting the object from the subject. This is the indirect object of the, now we could equivocate, but this is how we're working it in Greek, all right? The manos threw the ball on to the chilo. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You could take these nouns off and say the os threw the on to the o, and put any noun on there whatsoever, and you know the categories still hold up. So this tells you who's throwing the ball, what's being acted on, and who's receiving it. So to, like I said, if you see this O ending, translate the noun with a to or a by in front of it. So to the child of. Yes?
Just out of curiosity, can we say the object of a preposition to, or don't they have such a thing?
Yeah, there is an object of a,
And that will have a different ending?
it's not necessarily an object of a preposition, because prepositions are going to come at us a slightly different way too.
Okay, so they don't have that way.
Yeah, no, it's
So it's an indirect.
you lump it into agents, if you will, agents or actors, and so the prepositions get governed in those slots. That's why it's an indirect object instead of object of a preposition, because the preposition kind of falls under the agent of the receiver. Now,
Whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
just so I wanted to make sure that.
yeah, so you're not going to quite have that. So English grammar can sometimes be good, it can sometimes be confusing for our purposes here. So, anthropos, what's that mean? The man threw the ball on. Now this means to the toe. That's our to the child. Okay? You're going to start seeing this more and more. The takes on the same ending as the thing after it. So ton logon. Toe child. So you'll see that. Get used to that. And now let's do another one here. This is our fourth one, fourth ending. The u ending causes us to translate a noun with of or from in front of it. So it's called the genitive. Don't worry about that yet. But when you see this u ending on the back of a noun, like anthropo, don't laugh. So juvenile. Anthropo. Anthropos means man, right? Anthropo means of a man or from a man. So that's kind of how that works. You put the ending on it. So you have ballos of the girlu, the ball of the girl. That's how you say something belongs to somebody in Greek. The ball of the girl. Or ballos to girl. I put you see that the kind of takes on the ending of the thing that's following it in a lot of these cases. I'll explain that later. The anthropos hollers for the dogon of his sonu. What does that mean? Let me translate that into, it's half English right now already. But.
The man holler for the dog of his son.
Yeah, so his son's dog, right? The man hollers for the dog of his son, or if you want to shorten it up, you can say his son's dog. The son's. Okay. What I want you to see is these endings. Are they starting to make sense why they show up? Because word order doesn't happen. It's all on the endings, all right? So, a man says a word. Let's say this in Greek. What do you think it would be? A man says a word. Just take a stab at it. It's not a whispering thing. Just say it out loud. Start just one word at a time. Anthropos. Lege. Logon, yeah, or logon. Yeah, good. So anthropos, lege, logon. The man says a word. Now what about logon, lege, anthropos? Logon, lege, anthropos. Man says a word, yes. So logon means it's a thing that's you're gonna have to wait till later to translate that because it's got the N noise on it. Lege, there's your verb, good. Let's put a bookmark on it. Anthropos, we finally get the subject. So then you can translate it. You got to read all the way to the end of the sentence before you can start translating.
Then that first time we said anthropos, lege, should be logon, not
Log on.
Logo, or logos, or,
Yeah, we said log on.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't, okay.
That's what I did.
Okay, that explains it. So here we go, anthropos lege logon. It's right on the board. Or on the, yes?
Could you imagine knowing Greek trying to learn English? Like, this is how, these are the rules you've been following your entire life, and now English decides to be different.
That's probably about the same as knowing English trying to learn Greek, you know? It's like the same bridge, you just got to cross in a different direction with a little ice on it, you know. So, we made it into Greek, and you know this is the subject because it ends with that, and you know this is the object, which is used because it ends in that. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I want to. Let's see if you can translate this one. This has a couple vocab words in it. What is hutas? This? Yes. Very good. Very good. This man says the word. I'm impressed. Good.
Can it be speaks?
Speaks, that's fine.
Okay.
We have a lot of different words for speaking or saying in English.
Well, every time I say, it says, the book says speak. Every time I say speak, it says say. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Speak, say,
Is
state.
there, yeah, does it, will there come a time where it matters one way or another?
Context will have to
Dictate.
dictate that.
Okay.
That's why we have all these translations. Because this one says say and this one says speak. Things like that.
Thank
Or
you.
states, you know, or whatever. So this man says the word. Now, do you think hutas has that ending for a reason?
Yes.
You think that's an accident?
No. Of course not.
It kind of sounds like the ending on anthropos, doesn't it? Yeah, it's kind of, it goes along with the subject. This man. So hutas is one of those words, among many, that you can take any ending that goes with anthropos and put it on hutas.
So could you say tos, anthropos, lege, ton, ufton, legon, and would that then mean the man spoke this word?
Yes, if you move huton over,
Yeah.
hutas and turn it into
change
huton, it would say this word.
Okay.
You're right.
All right.
So let's do this. Now, the one thing that I would correct would be, you've noticed that we say ha anthropos instead of tos anthropos. That's just one of the things that this is the instead of, you would expect it to be like all the other ones. All the other ones are ta, you know, and whatever ending. But this is the exception. So ha anthropos. We're going to say lege. Can you read my writing? Huton. Logon. Okay. So yeah, that would be the man says or speaks this word. Or you know, let's get crazy, right? The man says this.
And it's,
So the endings can kind of help you relate which words go together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's why I put the kind of byline on today's lesson, right? Let me read that again. In which you find out about endings that can help you tell what in the world is going on in a sentence. If you say, I'm gonna space out on this one, and I'm gonna pick back up next week. Well, then you're never gonna know what's going on in a Greek sentence, because next week is less important than this week. The last 3 weeks, well, today, last week, and the week before, may be the 3 most important weeks in your Greek career. Because if you miss that verbs have endings and how the verbs work, if you miss that nouns have endings and how the nouns work, then you're just going to be like out there swimming like this the rest of the time. Help me, I don't know what I'm doing. If you're catching on to this, if you're not spacing out, focusing in on this, this will help you. This will go a long way to the rest of the semester to help you. So these endings tell you what is it doing? Who is doing this verb? Because when you read through a Greek sentence, you want to go all the way to the end and find out, okay, there's a verb. I don't know what that verb means yet. I have to look it up. Okay, I've done that. Now, who's doing the verb? Well, the person with the subject, I think. And then you can figure the rest out from there. And eventually you get to where you don't have to go through all those steps. All right, so let's add some intrigue to it. I want to say a word to this indirect object, or this other man. So, hutas anthropos lege ton logon to anthropo. Let's kind of figure this one out together, all right? So hutas means what?
This
Man. The word. Remember this little thing at the bottom? To the
man.
The man, yes. So remember I made a big deal about this omega with the little tail hanging off the bottom? The iota subscript is what it's called. Yeah, that's your 2. This man says the word to the man. You could say, let me just confuse this sentence. It's going to say the exact same thing as this, all right? Ton logon, lege, to anthropo, hutas anthropos. Means the same thing. Or, to anthropo, ton logon, hutas anthropos, lege. Or, hutas, ton logon, anthropos, to anthropo, lege. Or, lege, hutas anthropos, to anthropo, ton logon. It doesn't matter, all right?
When the different writers were writing the New Testament, was each person's writing style kind of related to how they put the words in order? Like
Yeah.
one
Everybody
writer
had a
would put it
different
in
way.
one order, one guy would put it in a different order?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I heard about style, but I wondered if the writing style went into how they ordered the words.
Yeah, is anybody interested in kind of like the New Testament style? Let's do that real quick. Good segue. Because I want to bring this up sometime. Different books of the New Testament are written in different like levels of readers, you know, like the 1st grade reader, 2nd grade reader, 12th grade reader, graduate student. And so you have at the bottom, you have, let's do this in English, Mark. Mark is like real simple Greek. It's not even like really the best Greek in the world. And then, so you have Mark, and you have John, Gospel of John, the Epistles of John, and then you have like Revelation, the Apocalypse of John. It's way out here in left field. It's like, let's just put a dot there. I'm not gonna stoop down and spell it. It's like horrible Greek. It's wacky Greek. It's I mean, it's a wacky book, so what do you expect, right? So Revelation is like way out there at the bottom somewhere. They're not really even sure what to do with it. So you got Paul. Paul writes in pretty standard, good Greek. It's readable for a congregation. It's sometimes what he says is very complicated. Sometimes he goes to elevations of style, but for the most part, it's nuts and bolts Greek. Then you got Luke and Acts. And that's pretty high level Greek. Then the highest of all would be Hebrews. I mean, Hebrews is written by someone who went to graduate school with some philosophers and writes in this very flowery, I have to look up every other word in a dictionary style.
That's the reason I couldn't even find
I mean, there's a lot of words used here that you won't find. I mean, he'll use some of them, Luke and Acts, but you'll never find them down in some of these, because they're just big, crazy words. Yeah.
So would you say basically each writer's style depended on their level of intelligence?
Education, what language like Hebrews was written by somebody who was probably raised speaking Greek their whole life. Down here, you have people who probably learned Greek at a later stage. So, and these were folks that used Greek, you know, you can tell either all or most of their lives they used it, but not on the same level as this. So these are people that learned it as they went. Or we're taking dictation. You know, if Mark was taking dictation from Peter and just kind of like trying to take the words from his level of Greek into his level of Greek, you know, that could account for it too.
We have all the Gospels up there except for Matthew. Where would that
Oh,
fall, or do you
yeah,
not?
kind of
do you
like
not
here, Matthew here.
know? Okay.
And same with like 1 Peter would be here, and you know, and Jude and 2 Peter. You know, you kind of like put them in here. So yeah, most of them kind of hang out in this area here, but you have your big exceptions like John, and especially Revelation. Are Revelation is strange Greek. Sometimes like you don't know what to do with some of the things he does. It's like he intentionally breaks grammar rules, like on purpose. It's like you read something in English and you're like, is this person doing this on purpose to me? It's like that's reading Revelation in Greek. And Hebrews is like the opposite end. Are they trying to like blow my mind with the rhetoric here? It's such a high level. So that's a good question. Yeah. Hopefully that explains it. Do you want to take a quick break to get your coffee? Yeah, okay. It's not moaning anymore. So if you want to take a quick break to get your coffee, and we'll
The spirits are gone.
yes. All right, let's do a little
Anyway. Yeah, but, oh, yeah.
let's do a little summon things up here, right? Let's kind of put it all in a little package so you can kind of take it with you and know your drill. In Greek, we tell what a noun is doing by the form it takes. I hope you've learned that, if nothing else. If you've picked up on the fact that the ending of the noun tells you what it's doing, then you're doing well. We're going to call these forms cases, and there's 4 of these cases. And you know, if you don't remember these, that's fine. But I'm just going to repeat them for you. Like, there's plenty of people that read Greek that didn't know the names of these cases. Like, I don't know that Mark knew the names of these cases when he was writing. I think the writer of Hebrews did know. Like, I'm going to go to the accusative cases. I mean, I'm pretty sure. But because they did study these things in the schools. Yeah, they studied these things in the schools. And but I'm just not sure Mark. Okay, so the nominative. Mark is homeschooled. There you go. So was I. That explains everything. Nominative is your subject. So anthropos is the man. Genitive is your of possessor. So anthropo. Don't laugh. Dative and direct object. Anthropo. And accusative is the object, so anthropon. So you don't. This is what I want you to learn. Okay. This is the one. Okay. These are the endings that are going to make a difference in your life.
That's what quizzes are for.
So I'm just going to read through these so you can kind of get a sense of how they sound, how you should be walking around this week. Os, on, o, us, oi, u, ois, on. Now that's not going to sound good. You got to put a word on it. Because if you don't have a word on it, it just sounds like a bunch of gibberish. So if you say anthropos, anthropon, anthropo, anthropus, wait a minute.
They're all mixed up.
Let me fix this. Yes, they're on the wrong side.
That's not how I memorized it.
Watch this. I'm going to take,
Scared me.
yeah. Scared me too. I thought somebody didn't have time.
So what's
Your
that
paper's
be?
wrong, fix
He's
it.
fixing it.
We need to fix it.
Oh, it's wrong.
I don't know.
We just printed what was on there.
What about pencil?
What about the top one?
Should be asu.
On, boy,
Cassie, did you take my
who,
pencil?
on, oh, boy, on. Okay, that's a little embarrassing. I think we're good now.
Yeah, he scared me.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I'm like, what's wrong here? Do I need more coffee today? You know, my wife has bronchitis and stay up till midnight working on these. I think, yes,
It's all right, John. Okay.
we all make mistakes. But this is one that we should not make a mistake of.
Is that the only one? Just
There's
that
So-
one? Just Gen
Let
2?
me read down it and you watch your list, all right? Os, oo, not own. I think I had own, right? Oh, I'll get you a new list of these. On. And then on the plural side, oi, own, not who, ois, and us. Not on. Let's try this again, all right? Sorry about that. It's confusing enough without me like making mistakes. There's like 0 tolerance for mistakes here, and I made one.
You shall be stunned.
I shall be stoned.
All right, let's
I think they have. I think they have like enough stuff out there. You could probably hurt me really badly.
The problem is, no, we're not without the set.
Okay.
Yeah, struck the first.
So you're working on it.
My psychology teacher was trying to tell me that we can study. I was like, no.
Really?
Just throw too hard.
So let me read down these. Let me try again. All right, let me start over. Os, u, o, on, oi, on, ois, us. So anthropos, anthropu, anthropo, anthropon, anthropoi, anthropon, anthropois, anthropus. These are the things you'll be saying. All right, so let me say that again. Why don't you look up here with me and let's just say anthro, and put the endings on together, okay? That'll help us to get a little rhythm. So anthropos, anthropu, anthropo, anthropon, anthropoi, anthropon, anthropois, anthropus. Want to do that one more time?
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
On the accusative,
Anthropus. It's
the last
us.
one,
Uh-huh.
does that sound the same as the
It's
second one in plural?
Right there.
That's in the word.
It's in the word
Yeah,
anthropos.
when you say it, so it's not
Oh,
saying the same way, like both on,
Oh, this is own,
own,
and that is on.
okay, own.
It's the stem.
Yeah.
So let's do that again. That's a good question. Any other questions like that?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Is there a pronunciation difference between those two? Yes, that's own,
Okay.
and that's on. So, good question. So let's run through this again, all right? Let's say it out loud. Anthropos, anthropu, anthropo, anthropon, anthropoi, anthropon, anthropois, anthropus. Let's do it with logos, okay? Logos, logu, logo, logon, logoi, logon, logois, logus. So that's those are the endings you're going to want to work on. And I'm going to give you some new nouns to use because you now have noun endings. So you might as well get some nouns to go with them. It's like accessorizing, right?
Yes.
I am not playing with dolls.
So use the endings to decode these. The man us went to the house o.
Remember the Titans.
I know I'm using English words. I want you to get used to like putting these endings on words, okay? So the man us went to the house o. Translate it in English for me. Don't whisper. I don't want to hear any whispering.
What did you say again?
How do you say this in English? The man us went to the house o. The man went to the house. I mean, it's not a trick question. The man shoved the child. The man on shoved the child away. That sounds horrible.
The man shoved the children. Oh,
That's
no, the
children.
children.
The man shoved the child.
The man shoved the child. Look at the ending
The
here.
children shoved the
Man on. He is an object, right?
Yeah.
So he's not doing the shoving. He was a man off. He's the one doing the shoving.
Yeah.
He's a man on. Oh, wait a minute. He's getting shoved. Child away. Where is that? Where is it? Oh, there's the subject, and there's a lot of them. See? Uh-huh. The children shoved the man.
So he was attacked by a litter of children?
Yes. That's right. So when you first read this, you thought, oh, how could you write such a thing? The man shoved the child, but then you look at the endings and you go, wait a minute, this is even weirder than, the children shoved the man. Attack! But that's the importance of the endings. It changes the entire sentence around, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Right? The dogos babu ate food on katu. I mean, even if you don't learn Greek, just learning these endings can make your life fun, right? It's like accelerated pig Latin, pig Greek.
The dog ate Bob the cat's food.
The dog ate Bob's cat's food.
Yes. figure this out. Bob, like of Bob, the dog of Bob, ate the food of the cat, and you went right ahead and made it into possessives. So Bob's dog ate cat's food. The dog,
Like cat stains.
right, the dog of Bob ate the food of the cat.
Wait, was that, like he said, the cat's name is Bob, or was that Bob's
Well,
cat?
let's look at it. So dog has an os in it. That means it's the subject, right? So dog. Dog is the subject here. Good. All right, so we got dog. We're picturing dog. Babu, what's Babu? Okay, that's that possessive thing, that genitive thing. You put an of in front of it. Of or from. So this is of.
Bob's dog.
The dog of Bob ate food. Okay, well that's on. Oh, that's the object. So we have the subject. We have the object of food. And cadu. Okay, well that's another one of those of words. Here. And you go back and review about 5 slides prior. It'll tell you, it'll remind you of that. So, dog is the subject. He's eating the food. And the dog belongs to Bob, and the food belongs to the cat. So basically you have dogs, Bob's eating cat food. If you will. So Pat, yes.
No, I think my question.
Yeah, okay. So in a case like this, because you're just learning them, you have to go up and down, and treat this like a decoder ring, and go, what ending is this? Now what does that mean? Because you're going to get examples. And so we already did this with logos. Logos, lagu, lago, lagon, lagoi, lagon, lagois, lagus. Word, 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 word. Anthropos we did it with. Now here's a couple of your new vocab words. I know this is a really big, intimidating chart, but you only need to learn 1, 2, 3, 4 things plus the endings. You realize that? Because the endings just keep repeating themselves over and over and over and over again. You don't need to learn every form of every word. Learn the word, basic form, logos or anthropos, or this new word, huios, means son, or doulos, which means servant. You learn these words. Then once you have your endings down, you got your endings. You can tack them on any one of these words. Okay? So that's why you got to go repeat these words, these endings to yourself over and over again. So, huios, huiu, huio, huion. So, let me just give you an example here. Huios anthropos. What do you think that means? Son of man, or man's son. And Jesus often calls himself the huios to anthropos, son of man. Just a thought. Okay. Doulos huiu. Servant.
Servant son.
Servant. Huiu gives it the of. Servant
Son,
of
servant.
son.
Oh, servant of son.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's that same thing, will work for any of these words. Son of the man, man of the word, servant of the son. So any of these include son of the servant.
Is there a difference between servant and slave in Greek?
No, not a hard and fast one.
Okay. Because I thought I heard that there wasn't, and that's why I was wondering about servant. Servant
Mhm.
also means slave.
Yeah, there's a lot more than just words
Okay.
that really impacts that.
Okay.
You have to look at their contract almost.
All right.
Okay, so let's use this chart here to see if we can figure out what this sentence says. Now, I want to tell you what this word means. You don't have this vocab word yet. Didasko means to teach. Ever heard of didactic? Didactic means it has a teaching quality to it. A teacher. So, didaske means he teaches. Didasko means I teach. You don't need to memorize that, but I just wanted to let you know this. So, Jesus, what's it? Jesus
Jesus
teaches. Anthropos. Where is anthropos on here and what does it mean?
holy.
So they're the ones receiving the teaching. They're down here at the bottom in the accusative list. Jesus didaske anthropos. Jesus teaches men. Yeah. And yeah, he's doing that. Okay, so let's put this another way. Jesus lege, what's that mean? Speaks. Lagus. Words. You notice it has the same ending as the men?
Okay.
So he speaks words. He's acting upon something. He's acting upon men here. He's acting upon words now. Anthropos. Two men. Yeah. So, Jesus lege lagus anthropos. Jesus speaks word to men. And you know that because it's down here. I just want to give you, everybody's talking about English these days in this class. About how different English is from Greek. Maybe we should run this program on the coffee pot. It's our virus protection software. Okay, this is just, I'm not going to run over this, but this is just to kind of just so you know, that English used to have cases, and it still kind of does.
Do all these apply any differently with the verb to be? Or is it the same? Like if Jesus is the light of the world, it would still be all the same case endings?
Yeah, we'll look at that when we do John 1:1. We're going to review that real quick, so that'll come back up. If I don't bring it up, remind me.
Okay.
So this is how you used to say angel in English. You had your genitive and your dative and your accusative, and you had your plurals. Back in the old, when English people were still running around painting each other blue and cutting scalps off and stuff like that. You realize English people used to be very primitive. So this is kind of how we talk. All right. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were in a better place, but that was what my people were doing. All right. And so today we have these case endings sort of in place. You ever wonder why we say he, but then when it's something that belongs to somebody, we say his. But then when we're talking about give it to them or you hit him, we don't say I hit he, or I gave it to his, or I gave it to he. You ever wonder why we have all these multiple endings for, no?
No.
She and her, we have the same thing with that. Well, you never thought about it, did you?
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking about it now, so Greek seems weird because you have to think about it. You do it all the time without realizing it in English. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up. You use case endings and all sorts of weird stuff. So he, his, him, they, their, them. You don't think about it, it just comes naturally. But you're using different cases in English. Same with I, mine, me. You can find other things, but that's just it. It's more informative. Yes?
Do you think that by the end of the course we'll all be thinking about the word endings, or it will just come naturally?
I don't know. What do you think, Nicole? Martin?
A lot of times I still have to think about it,
What do you think, Martin?
unless it's a word I know, and it helps.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it trips you up for a good while, certainly.
I always thought you did very well with the endings, but yeah, you got to know how important it is. Would you emphasize like what I emphasized? If you
Yes.
don't learn this now, that
You'll be lost.
It's not going to get better. Yeah, like learn these today, and then everything else will be a little more manageable. I think I've noticed that folks who get behind at the beginning are going to struggle a little more as they go through. So. All right, these are our 12 vocab words for the week.
I thought there were 8. Or those are 8
That's the
endings.
ending.
Gotcha.
Now these endings work on these vocab words. That's why I say you're accessorating. These work on these words. So, what's that? Agagelos? Angelos, yeah. What do you think angelou means?
Judging by the English.
Hmm?
Judging by the English equivalent, probably angel.
Yeah, angel means, angelos means angel. What if I put oo on the end? Angelou. You can look. Look at your sheets if you want to. Put a word in front of it. Of the angel. How about angelo? Let's see the little subscript on the bottom. If you can read it, you can hear it. You see. To. Yes. To the angel. How about angelon? Well, it's just the angel, right? It's the object. So that's those endings will work with angel, angelos. Agros. It's field. Ever heard of agriculture? Yeah. All right. So agros just means field. Adelphos, brother. That's where, you know, Philadelphia, Phila is love, and Adelphos is brotherly, brother. So if I say Adelphoi, I'm speaking of my brothers. Adelphoi. That's the plural ending. So Adelphos is the same brother. Hamartolos. Hamartolos. This is one you're going to have to learn. It's one of those, like last week, anagnosko is one of those weird words, right? Like anagnosko. I don't want to learn that. You know, hamartolos might be like that as well. It's just like, doesn't sound like anything. Well, if you study theology, if you go to like, go on like study theology or whatever, you'll learn about something called hamartiology. That's one of the big categories of theological study. It's the study of sin. So, people study that all the time without realizing, right? Every day, people study sin. But in theology school, you study in a different way. Not by doing it, but by reading about it and talking about its effects on humanity. So hamartolos is a sinner. An apostolos is an apostle. That should be pretty easy. I would consider this a freebie. Apostolos. Apostolos. That's about as near as a freebie as you can get. Diakonos, the minister, sometimes a deacon. So diakonos, that's pretty near to a freebie because it sounds all like deacon, deacon. I don't know. All right, doulos we talked about, slave, servant. Thanatos, this is another one that's not a freebie. Thanatos means death.
Sorry, just there's an Avengers guy named that, so that's how I'm gonna remember that.
Okay, all right, all right.
Because he was named after that word. He was named after the word in Greek.
Okay. So if comic books help. So it makes you wonder if people that write comic books have taken Greek.
They did it on purpose. He was based off the Greek god.
So should we be reading comic books instead?
Absolutely.
Cosmos,
Oh,
world. This should be kind of near a freebie for a lot of you.
Cosmos is world?
Yeah.
Okay.
It can mean
Not
universe,
universe.
world.
Okay.
See, in the concepts of ancient time, universe and world, like the universe wasn't that big. Like it was like a sphere around the world, and you didn't really talk about what was outside of that.
The stars were just kind of there.
Yeah, they like either they moved around. I wrote a paper on this one time about different concepts of the cosmology and anyway. But yeah, the world and the universe, the world, the whatever. Yeah, or the things in the world. You see, love not the cosmos. These are the things in the cosmos. If any man loves the cosmos, the love of the Father is not in him. Well, it's not talking about like the dirt. It's talking about the things and the objects and the material goods of this earth. But then, you know, John 3:16, for God so loved the cosmos, or the time cosmon.
So it's like everything?
He loved the people in the world,
Okay.
in that case. So you can see, we use the world in different ways too. Like the whole world was watching. You know, like the dirt has eyes now, you know? So we use it in different ways too. They were the same. So God so loved time cosmon, but love not time cosmon. Notice I put the new ending on the end, make it an object. Kurios is Lord. When a woman comes to Jesus and calls him the Lord, it's this kurios ending. Kurios, you know. My Lord and my God. Kuriou, well, let's see. Kurios mu. Yeah, so kurios, it's just like that. Lord, kai theon. Lord and God. Kurios kai, yeah. Huios is son. Not to be confused with hus, which means pig. Huios.
Is that Greek? Who's?
You got to make a little it's a to move from the H to the U to the I, you almost have to turn it in. You almost have to, here's how I have to pronounce it. I'll just write it out in kind of like English transcription. So I say it like huios. Huios. Kind of like, so huios. If you say it together real quick, it's huios, huios. So that's just because you have like the H sound, and then you have the upsilon, and you have to deal with that all of a sudden, and then you just get hit with another vowel, So it's like huios. That's why it has to. There's just a lot of vowels sandwiched between an H and an S. So yeah, so huios means sun, and some of you won't get this, but there is that ancient joke that because a hus is a pig, and huios is a sun, and of course Jews don't eat pigs, right? So
That's right.
Herod the Great had a lot of his sons murdered, and so the emperor, the Roman emperor, Caesar, kind of made this observation from afar, that it would be much safer to be Herod's hus, because he doesn't eat hus, than to be his huios. So I made a little joke in Greece. So whoever said the emperors were stupid, right? So yeah, there's all sorts of ancient jokes, but yeah, it's much safer to be Herod's huios, or hus, than his huios. Because if you're his huios, you're probably going to be executed eventually. So you don't have to know that. So pharaoh is a verb. This is not a noun. Pharaoh is a verb. It means to bear, to bring, to carry. So when you see, if you see Pastor Christopher, Pastor Chris, you can tell him you know what his name means now, because the Christo means Christ, and Pharaoh means to bear, to carry, and so Christopher means I carry Christ, or I'm a Christ bearer. So if that helps you remember that, that's a mnemonic device to help you remember what Pharaoh means. You ferry it across. It's another one. So yeah, Pharaoh. So Pharaoh being a verb, you'll notice it does not end with the os ending. It's a verb. Pharaoh, I bring, I bear. Pharaoh, pheres, pherae, pheromen, pherete, pherusi. Doesn't get these other idioms. It gets the verbs that you learned last week, right? Okay. Here's Peter speaking in Matthew 26:63. He says, "You are a Christos," which means the Christ, the Messiah. Huios tou theou. What do you think that means? Did I hear Son of God? The Son of God? Yes. You are the Christ, the Son of the God, of God. Tou theou. So even if you don't know by rote what these endings mean, if you know that the endings make a difference and you go, I should go look that up, you learned today's lesson. Paulos, what do you think that means? Paul. Yeah. Is Paul a noun?
Yes.
Does he have a noun ending?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Paulos, doulos. What does doulos mean?
Servant.
Servant. So, Paul, servant. Notice how you just kind of run those two together? Okay, so Paul, servant. Christou, well, we saw that Christos means Christ. What do you think Christou means?
Christ.
Christ.
What's that?
Of Christ.
Of Christ. Of Christ.
Jesus.
Of Christ Jesus. And you don't say of Christ of Jesus. You run these together. So Paulos, doulos, Paul, servant of Christ Jesus. So Paul, apostolos, called apostle, set apart to, this means the gospel, euangelion. You don't have to learn that. I actually had that in your vocab, but I thought, I'll just give you 12. I had like 20. So I cut it down to 12, all right?
Thank you.
You're gracious.
I just thought I'd let you know. Theo. Yeah, the last group had 120.
We had like a.
Yeah, they never got a break. Theo. What does that mean? God, of God. Gospel of God. Evangelion. Theo. The gospel of God. So now some things that were in our John text that didn't make sense, like why endings are changing, well now all of a sudden makes some sense. You're slowly learning, you're getting to the point where you're learning what every word in here means. Now you're not there yet, but you're getting to the point where you can figure out now what all these things are doing in here. Because we've had enough lessons to learn what your alphabet is. That was your first week, so now you can read the words and sound them out. And then the second week we looked at the verbs. So you got your verb. We don't really have a lot of verb endings in here, but you got some vocab like en and ain and logos and theon. Now this week you learned your endings. And you know why these endings are changing around them. So NRK, ain, ha, logos. What's the subject of that? The word. Could we translate this? The word was in the beginning.
In English form, I would
Mhm.
say, say that again.
The word was in the beginning.
In the beginning was the word. That's how I would say.
Mm-hmm. So that keeps the word order, right? In the beginning was the word. But it's legitimate. In fact, it could be preferable to say the word was in the beginning. So you're bringing your subject to the front. Like we're used to reading in English. That's a full translation in English when you bring your subject to the front.
Is it okay sometimes if you recognize like a subject,
Mhm.
if you pull it right to the beginning? Because I've seen like in the book when we've been reading, it's kind of done that. It's pulled the subject to the beginning so you can understand it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if you can look to recognize the subject, you can kind of pull it out of order.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's a good exercise to do right here at the beginning of everything. To like move things around where you understand it, and then work with it from there. Yeah.
So it
yeah.
seems like reading it backwards at times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Our English translation, in the beginning was the word. It puts a subject on the end. That makes for awkward English. I mean, smoother English would be the word was in the beginning. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I'm just saying. That's a legitimate translation. Kai. And, yes, okay. Logos, the word. Ain was. Pros, ton, theon. With? God. Right? Yeah. Ton is our object ending. It's not really doing anything. It tells you it's not the subject. You know, ton, theon. You don't put an of in front of it. You don't put a to in front of it. It's just there. It tells you God's not the subject. The word is in this one. But you get down here, kai theos, ain, ha, logos. Notice that both have the same ending, right? And this kind of gets to your being verb question that you asked earlier. Okay, so they're both subject, you know, right? Kai theos, ain, ha, logos. Now we did look at some cases in more intermediate Greek where you say, okay, the article, word order, and things like that do come into account.